Hello everybody, I'm Catriona Morten, I'm a sensory-motor psychotherapist, and today what I'd like to talk to you about is our extremely complicated relationship with food. But before I get into that, if you're enjoying these videos, then please give us a like and subscribe to our channel because it really helps us get out there to more of you. So, our complicated relationship with food. The reason I'm talking about this today is because of how many times it comes up in my sessions with my clients. How big a deal it can be for a whole variety of reasons. Now, I want to make it really clear that what I'm not talking about today is people who have a really serious issue with any kind of eating disorder. I hate using that word, but that's the category that they're in. Whether it's anorexia or bulimia, this might in a tiny little way kind of resonate, but that's a different treatment model. There are multiple very complex reasons, very specific things that are related to that, which I might cover in a video one day. But this is for my clients who, in one way or another, really struggle with food. It's a battle, it's an ongoing problem. It goes in extremes of really particular ways of eating to eating practically nothing, and the whole spectrum in between. If we just look at our kind of history with food, we began as hunter-gatherers. We went out and we killed what we needed, we hunted it down, we cooked it, we skinned it, we ate it. We gathered berries, we gathered food from around and fungi and all sorts of things. We then moved into agriculture where we were growing things. And when we started being able to grow things, then we were able to produce a lot more kind of food and things were slightly more abundant. We've moved relatively quickly in terms of evolution from those phases of it being an essential, a survival thing, no choice involved whatsoever, having to do everything ourselves, to being able to just order a takeaway on the phone and it gets delivered to the door and ping, we eat it. That's a huge shift and change. And it doesn't really give us an opportunity to look at our relationship with food. Food is essential. We need food to survive. And it's also really closely intertwined with our attachment and our nurturing. You know, it's a big deal getting babies and small children to eat. And it's very much a nurturing process that happens. And so it's hardwired, as anything in our attachment is, into our survival system. And so it's part of our relationships to people. You know, food is involved in just about every kind of celebration all over the globe. Almost everything involves some kind of food as part of that celebration. The producing of the food, the eating of the food, the sharing of the food. It can be a very intimate process. But we often don't really look at our relationship to food. We kind of do it a little bit unconsciously, we sort of sleepwalk into things, and we don't often give it enough awareness. Not so long ago, families would all sit around the table, there would maybe a prayer, a blessing, some kind of thanks for the food and the person that's produced the food and where the food's come from. It was always quite a ceremony, and we've moved a long way away from that. The other aspect of it is our Pavlovian response, and I'm sure most of you are aware of Pavlov, who trained a dog ringing a bell when the dog was eating. Eventually he would ring the bell and the dog would salivate. It's conditioning, and a lot of what we're taught and how we associate with food is conditioning from the way that it was done to us and the rituals that were around when we were little, when we were growing up. And often we just kind of follow those without really giving it a massive amount of thought. I mean, do we even stop to think? Who decided on the kind of structure of meals? Why is breakfast these particular things? Why does lunch have to look like this? And why does dinner look like that? And who decided that we eat dessert at the end of the meal? You know, sugar is a relatively modern concept, that refined, highly produced sugar that sets off huge spikes in our blood sugars. You know, we have a massive spike and a huge drop off if we have too many unrefined sugars. And it sets off an endorphin release. Oh, that's really good. And we make those associations with it. And while I'm not saying any of those things are a bad thing, what I'm often getting my clients to do is really kind of examine their relationship to food, the reward system that we put with food. Why is our reward system always caught up with something that's sweet, refined, fatty, whatever it is? Just think about, where did that come from? How did that originate? Was that my choice? Did I choose that? And when we begin to start exploring things, then we can bring a completely different narrative in and say, okay, well, if I was going to change my relationship with food, if I was going to change the way I eat, then what would that look like? What changes would I make? What choices would I start making for myself? And also being able to really listen to what your body is telling you about the way that you're eating. You know, when you're eating and you're eating too much and you feel full, I know for me, I can't overeat, because if I do at any point in the day, I feel really uncomfortable. So I know my eating habits, and I know the time of day that I feel best, when my energy levels are good, the kind of things that I eat. And it's not about being a slave to that, it's just being a bit more conscious of it. Really rethinking our eating habits and the things that we associate as a treat, things that we deserve. Is it possible to give ourselves that feeling of being valued, being rewarded with something else? Is there other things that make us feel good? So we're not always completely focused on food. One of the other reasons I'm bringing this is because a lot of my clients who have issues with food spend an enormous amount of time in the day thinking about it, having this inner battle with themselves. And often what I do is I just help them kind of unpack where that's come from, what that's about, what other things are associated with it, what belief systems do we have about it, to just begin that curiosity. You know, we can all make our own rules, we can make our own way of doing things. And often when we get into a relationship, one of the first things that changes is the way that we eat, the things that we eat, the time of day that we eat, the amount that we eat. And we can find ourselves fitting into somebody else's pattern that doesn't really suit us. If we really know what suits us and what we like, then it's much easier to incorporate that into doing that with somebody else. You know, compromising, and doesn't mean we have to be a slave to it. We can go out for meals, we can do all sorts of things. But know what kind of structure that really suits us, so that it's ours, we've got it, and we're a bit more clear about it, instead of it just being quite an unconscious thing. It's a pretty unconscious thing when you kind of pick a takeaway and it gets delivered, you open it up, stick it on your plate and eat it. Maybe just think about giving some thanks, being grateful for what we're about to eat. It can just make you stop and think, okay, I'm giving thanks to where this food came from. Oh, I wonder where it came from. Who made it? Oh, I wonder how they made it. And what is it about this that I like? What am I giving thanks for? To just give ourselves a little bit of consciousness when we're going through things. And also, you know, gratitude and being thankful, getting into a habit of doing that is not a bad thing, because it really makes us stop and think about what we like, why we like that, and instead of just taking things for granted, we're being grateful for things having a meaning, a bit more purpose. Also, when you're examining these things and you want to make some changes, but it's difficult, look at not in a way of, oh my God, it's so difficult, what's wrong with me? What is it that's making it so difficult? Again, just open up your curiosity. What is it that prevents you doing the things that you know are good for you or know that you would like to do? What is it? And what is it about that thing that just keeps its little hook in you, that makes it difficult to implement the changes? That kind of curiosity can be really, really revealing when we just give ourselves an opportunity to look at things in a really non-critical way, but just being curious instead of, I wonder what's wrong with me. I wonder what that's about. I wonder where that came from. And just, allow yourself a bit more conscious, present moment experience with these things. Eating should be a really enjoyable, it's part of our survival process, of course, but it should be an enjoyable, conscious experience. Something that we are appreciative of and that we know what we're doing and how we're nurturing this amazing body that we all have, that we expect so much of, what we're fueling it with. So I hope that you can relate to some of that. It's helpful, useful, and it helps you just make a little bit more sense of things. So if you've enjoyed this video, then give us a like and please subscribe to our channel, and I will look forward to seeing you again very soon. Okay, bye.